Hi there and welcome to my weekday podcast. Today we conclude our study on the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And the last gift mentioned by Paul is the interpretation of tongues. Now, a message in tongues is like a prophecy in the church with interpretation. Tongues, we're told, are a sign for unbelievers. We read that in 1 Corinthians 14:22. It says, tongues then are a sign not for believers, but for unbelievers. Prophecy, however, is not for unbelievers, but for believers. Now, with a message in tongues, there should always be an interpretation, either by another person, or if there's no one able to interpret, the person bringing the message of tongues should interpret. It says that in 1 Corinthians 14:13. For this reason, the one who speaks a tongue should pray that they may also interpret what they say. There should be no more than 2 or 3 messages in tongues in a meeting. 1 Corinthians 14:26-28 says, what then shall we say, brothers and sisters? When you come together, each of you has a hymn or word of instruction, a revelation, a tongue or interpretation. Everything must be done so that the church may be built up. If anyone should speak in a tongue, 2 or at the most 3 should speak, one at a time, and someone should interpret. If there is no interpretation, the speaker should keep quiet in the church and speak to himself and to God. Tongues, like every other gift of the Holy Spirit, is to edify the church. The message in tongues is a means whereby God can speak to the church. Interpretation is not necessarily a word-by-word translation of what that person has said, either in human language or angelic language, but general idea of what God is saying to the church. Sometimes the interpretation comes by way of a picture, someone sees in their mind's eye, which reveals something of what God is wanting to say, or sometimes it's to an individual in the church. If you have a notepad or notes app, why not write down a time when you gave an interpretation of a message in tongues? If you haven't experienced this gift, would you be willing to do so if prompted by the Holy Spirit? So the gifts of the Holy Spirit in 1 Corinthians 12 are of utmost importance. This is just an introduction rather than a detailed study. However, although these gifts and using these gifts is essential in the life of the disciple, Paul is quick to point out it's not all about the gifts, but it's about the character. 1 Corinthians 13:1-3 says, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but I do not have love, I'm just a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge. And if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all I possess to the poor and give my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I am nothing. The gifts are special, but the giver is even more special. We must allow the Holy Spirit himself to teach us, guide us, shape us, give us all that we need in order to operate as the church the way that Christ intended. So the thought or question for today is this: have you been baptized with the Holy Spirit yet? If not, he is a gift that keeps on giving, and he is available to you if you are a believer today. So just ask him. God bless you, and thank you for watching.